Hello and welcome back to another episode. Now today I want to share with you a very, very special place. Somewhere which I used to hang out when I was basically in high school at the weekends. As part of my sort of Saturday afternoon ritual, I would go to this place and just enjoy the milkshakes and have a great time just people watching. But I'll come to it. I'll come to this in just a moment. First of all, you need to know the context. Often my Saturday afternoons would involve, for example, going to Rill, going to the arcades, and I've sort of already talked about that in my arcade memories video. But also it involved, for example, going to maybe some local computer game stores. Certainly there was a wonderful, and I hope it's still there, a wonderful independent comic book and card game store as well. And then at some point in the day, you know, as so often happens, we'd get hungry. So me and my friends would be like, oh, you know, I could really have something to eat right now. So often they'd go, well, let's go to KFC. And if I was with them, then, you know, maybe I'd cave and I'd go off to KFC with them. But if I was on my own, or if I was maybe with my brother or my then girlfriend, we wouldn't go to KFC. I had a very special place that I would go instead. So for me, KFC, if I had the option, it was a no. We had to go round the corner, a little bit out of our way, to a place called Sidoli's Ice Cream Parlour. Now, Sidoli's has a very special history and atmosphere. It's a family-run business, and they've been there for more than 100 years. I think they came to North Wales from Italy in 1910. You know, I think anyway. So about 106 years this business has been in the heart of Rill, or sort of in the, you know, just off towards the west end of Rill, and it's just magnificent. The atmosphere. It's really hard to explain, but the closest to this atmosphere which I've experienced locally is in a place called Mark Tony's in Newcastle. So this is kind of how the place felt. So yeah, so the decor is a little bit outdated, perhaps. The atmosphere is often quite quiet. It's got this sort of I don't know, almost like Americana kind of feel going on, and that's the whole point. This place in the 60s, for example, did a roaring trade in the evening of ice cream and Horlicks for people who were on their way home. I mean, how cool is that? So they were very much copying that sort of American kind of milk bar kind of motif. And when I discovered this place, it was totally by accident. Essentially, I was wandering along. Actually, to be honest, I think I was hunting for another game store, and actually on that particular day, it was just almost across from it. There was a road where there was a house that we'd seen on the local news, where basically there'd been a cannabis farm. A huge quantity of weed had been impounded the previous day. So I was kind of like, oh man, you know, that's the place, that's the house. And then I sort of turned around, and here was Sidoli's, you know. And so the first time I went in, I didn't quite know what to expect. Like I say, the atmosphere was very particular. Almost, I mean, compared to, for example, a modern restaurant or a modern, you know, chain like KFC, it almost feels a little bit grimy. And it's not grimy, it's just that the decor isn't white and clean and plastic, if you see what I mean. So I was sort of like, and I sort of sat down. And the first time I was there was one thing that really struck me, and that is the family-run nature of the business. So you had the son, I think Dominic, I think his name, and he's you know, certainly older than me, and he was you know, I think in his 20s when I was there. So you've got him working there behind the counter with a white coat on normally, again really quite traditional. His mum, I believe, and possibly his grandma, I think I might have seen. And you know, and they would basically wait to take your order, and it's hard to explain, but it's just so nice. You know, it was just a nice experience. So I ordered a milkshake and some ice cream or gelato, and it was just gorgeous. I think I had at the first time I was there, I think I had a banana milkshake and some strawberry ice cream, and that combination was just divine. So quite often that would be my go-to combo when I went back there. But whenever I did go back, actually, what would really start to stand out to me would actually be the regular customers. Now, I was becoming a regular customer, and so in that sense, maybe I was just as interesting to them as they were to me. But for example, there's one guy in particular who would sort of, I think he was like a writer, he was like writing a script or something. He always had a notebook anyway, which he was sort of scribbling in, and he was very fidgety and itchy, and I didn't really see him around town. I only ever saw him at Sidoli's, and he'd always sort of sit basically on the bar, scribbling away. There was another guy who would come in quite often, and he'd wear sort of cowboy boots and a suit, and he had like a definitely totally Elvis wig going on, and he always sort of pretty much sat in the same place. There was another guy who always came in who had an empty pet cage with him, and I did see him around town a couple of times, and this cage was always empty. Probably once contained a cat or something, but he'd have it with him. He'd come in, he'd sit down, he'd order his coffee or whatever, and he'd rest this cage on the table, and because it was empty, obviously there was no problem. No one came over and went, you shouldn't do, that's unhygienic, because it was empty. So he was an interesting chap, and I never quite got talking to him, although I would have liked to have known more about this cage, but one person I did get talking to was a wonderfully eccentric lady who I also bumped into quite often at the library. So she seemed to go to the library and come to Sidoli's when ice cream was going, and she would, no joke, she would wear a saucepan on her head, and in order to say hello or good afternoon, she'd actually grab the handle of the saucepan and doff it to you, good evening, and so she totally knew that she was wearing a saucepan on her head, and she totally she wasn't unaware of that, but also she wasn't just balmy. She was wonderful. She had a lovely personality. We had great conversations about actually her memories growing up in Rill during its sort of holiday town, towards the end of its heyday, as it were. Because really, I've only ever known Rill as a post heyday holiday seaside resort. So she'd talk about what it was like, how busy Rill used to be, how colourful the seaside front used to be, and all this kind of thing. And it was quite clear that sadly she had lost her children. I think she'd lost her sons at some point. One of them, I think, had gone in the military, and another one had died of an illness. She never quite clarified that. But she it's almost like she'd just gone, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna wear a saucepan on my head, and so she'd come in as well, and so this little place, even though I was kind of, I don't know, 14, 15, 16, and no one else in that place was anywhere near my age bracket. Certainly, me and my girlfriend, she was a year younger than me. No one else was in our age bracket. That place was just a little haven. It was a haven for getting away from the hustle and bustle, he says, of a small town on the coast of Wales. But hustle and bustle of the inner town area. It was a great place to sit when you bought some computer games, maybe go through and see what you got and read the manuals and this kind of thing. And it was a great place just to take a book and just watch people coming and going. There was a bell on the door, I seem to recall. That was again, classic kind of feel. And it just brings a smile to, it just brings a real warmth to my heart thinking about Sidoli's. So, as much as Rill was great for the arcades, and it was wonderful for getting hold of computer games and engaging in arcade culture and diving into the comic book stores and generally, a little geeky nirvana in my locality, it was also wonderful to almost sort of step back in time a little bit and experience this little ice cream parlour. It's still open today. I was checking online yesterday, and it still gets great reviews. People go, this place is amazing, and the food is well, it's not so much food, but but the ice cream and whatever else they offer, it's all good quality stuff. It all tastes great. The coffee, for example, I seem to recall, was very good. So they care about as well the experience and what they're producing. But I imagine most people who go to, for example, KFC or go to McDonald's or whatever, would probably wouldn't even step through the door, but they take one step in and just go, and sort of leave, And yet this place is just wonderful. A real, as they would say, mom and pop shop in the US. A real sort of family-run, honest to goodness business, which, to be honest, by all rights, really shouldn't have lasted 100 and more years. Given the changes, especially that the West End of Rill has gone through. There's some terrible problems, as I say, with drugs, for example, on their doorstep. This business has just been this little island of calm and tradition and just loveliness in a very tumultuous century for seaside resorts, So all these resorts started off as Victorian kind of places, so Llandudno and Vril and so on and so forth. And so that business has really seen a huge amount of change, and I just simply had to talk about it. It's a delightful place to go, and if you ever get a chance, pop your head into Durley's. They won't remember me. Don't say, oh yeah, that guy who used to come in here. They won't. But just soak it up, and maybe you'll get to see some of these wonderful characters who I used to see week in, week out, enjoying amazing ice cream and also enjoying each other's company. Anyway, guys, hopefully this has been an interesting sort of offshoot to my arcade memories. It's not every day that you get to experience that kind of place, and hopefully you have a similar place in your life. If not, why not go and try and find one somewhere in your town? Just experiment, see what these older establishments are like, these family-run cafes and restaurants, and you may well find a little gem near you. As I say, there is one close to that sort of atmosphere here in Newcastle, where I go quite often. And again, it's that sense of it being a little, your own little treasure, kind of thing. Like, you don't want too many people to come in because it would kind of ruin the atmosphere, Anyway, hopefully this has been interesting. As ever, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.